Look, I've been carrying this story inside me for months, and it's time I finally let it out. My name is Jimmy, I'm 34, and I've been married to Naomi for 6 years. On the surface, our marriage looked stable. Two people making it work in a modest apartment, me working at a mid-level tech company, driving a perfectly decent 2018 Nissan Sentra. But in my family, comparisons never stopped. My older brother, Jensen, was always the golden boy. He made 3 times my salary, drove a shiny Mercedes, lived in a home that looked like it belonged in a luxury magazine. And my wife? She noticed. Naomi had this obsession with status. She'd constantly remind me how Jensen's wife, Diana, traveled to Europe twice a year, how their kitchen renovation cost more than our annual rent, how Jensen seemed to have it all together. At first, I brushed it off as normal envy, the kind of thing you just accept in marriage. But little by little, I started noticing details that didn't sit right. The way Naomi dressed up a little more whenever we visited Jensen's place, how she laughed at his jokes a little too loudly, how her eyes lingered on him longer than they should. And Jensen wasn't innocent either. His hand on her shoulder, his overly familiar comments, the smirk he'd flash me when he said I was lucky to have someone like her. For 2 years, I kept my eyes open. I didn't accuse, I didn't fight. I observed. I tracked how Naomi's phone lit up more often after family dinners, how Jensen started inviting us over, but always suggested Naomi come along, how errands took her twice as long as they should. I wasn't paranoid, I was prepared. And when the day came, I'd be ready. That day arrived on a Thursday in March. My company had been struggling, and a round of layoffs hit. 15 people, including me. It wasn't performance-based, just cold numbers. Honestly, I'd seen it coming, and I had savings tucked away. But I knew Naomi wouldn't take it well. I walked in early that afternoon, told her the truth, and assured her we'd be fine. Her reaction? A bitter laugh I'll never forget. She told me she couldn't believe she married someone who couldn't even hold down a job. Then came the dagger. She said Jensen would never let something like this happen, that I was pathetic compared to him, and worst of all, that he knew how to satisfy a woman in ways I never could. I stayed calm. I sipped my coffee and told her it was funny, because that wasn't what she said last night in bed. That's when she snapped. She ripped her ring off, hurled it at me, and shouted that she was done with my mediocre life. She announced she was moving in with Jensen today. She even threw in a jab about how at least he drove a Mercedes instead of my rusty old Nissan. I didn't flinch. I told her to take my credit cards too. She'd probably need them. What she didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this moment for months. While she was playing games, I'd been moving money, changing passwords, consulting a lawyer, and gathering evidence. And in her suitcase, neatly packed for her convenience, I slipped a copy of the hotel receipt from 2 weeks earlier, one that showed she and Jensen had spent a night together at the Marriott, paid for on our joint card. Along with it, I left a note that read, "Thanks for making this easy." An hour later, Jensen walked in, grinning like he'd just won. He wrapped an arm around Naomi's waist right in front of me and said, "Real men take what they want." I handed him her bags and told him she was all his now, and if he needed to return anything, the receipt was in the front pocket. They both froze for a second, then brushed it off and walked out laughing. But here's the thing, I wasn't broken. I wasn't blindsided. I was ready. That night, I called my lawyer, Pablo. He specialized in cases like mine and had been on standby for months. Adultery doesn't always carry weight in divorce, but financial misconduct sure does. And I had receipts, plenty of them. Victoria's Secret charges, Nordstrom dresses, fancy dinners, and, of course, the hotel stay with my brother. Pablo reminded me that while Naomi thought she was getting a fresh start with Jensen, she'd actually given me everything I needed to cut ties and walk away stronger. The next morning, Jensen called me, acting like nothing had happened. He said he wanted to explain that sometimes people grow apart, that Naomi deserved someone who could provide properly. He even offered to cover my rent for a few months while I got back on my feet. I nearly laughed into the phone. I told him I already had a better job lined up, one with stock options that would soon dwarf his income. The silence on his end was golden. Then Naomi called, crying, asking why I was trying to hurt her. She said it only happened a few times, that she was confused, that she loved me but wasn't in love with me anymore. She begged me to meet and talk it out. I agreed, on one condition. Both she and Jensen had to come. Sunday afternoon, at the coffee shop where Naomi and I had our first date. Sunday came. They walked in, smug and confident. Naomi in a new dress I'd unknowingly paid for. Jensen with his arm around her like he was parading a prize. They sat across from me, full of rehearsed lines about moving forward. I let them speak, then slid my laptop around to show them our joint bank account, sitting at exactly $12.37. I'd moved everything else months ago. Naomi's face crumbled, Jensen's jaw tightened. I followed it up by reading off receipts from the folder I'd brought. Hotel stays, lingerie, dinners, all the proof of their betrayal. The coffee shop grew silent as people stared, and for the first time, Jensen and Naomi looked small. But that wasn't the knockout punch. I revealed that my new job placed me in charge of strategic partnerships, and Jensen's firm had been chasing a multi-million-dollar contract with us for months. I told him their chances didn't look great. His face went pale. Naomi begged me not to mix business with personal, but I just smiled and said, "You're right. Business is about trust, and trust is earned." Days later, Jensen's firm officially lost the contract. Word spread quickly in the business community. Diana, his wife, started asking questions after I casually mentioned his late nights at family dinners. By the time the dust settled, Diana filed for divorce. Jensen's firm let him go, and Naomi found herself back at her parents' house. No ring, no money, and no Mercedes. One night, they showed up at my door, both desperate. Jensen begged for forgiveness. Naomi pleaded that she'd made a mistake. They said they'd pay me back, that we could fix things. I told them they were 8 months too late. I had already moved on, signed divorce papers, and bought myself a new place with the signing bonus from my new job. I didn't yell, didn't gloat. I simply closed the door, leaving them in the hallway with the reality they had built for themselves. Now, I wake up every morning in my own space, free of lies, free of betrayal. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not out for revenge. I'm just living, happier and stronger than before. And if there's one thing I've learned through all this, it's this. When people show you who they really are, believe them the first time. If you found this story worth your time, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who might need to hear it today.